Hello, these are the readings for Sunday that I'm discussing, but in addition, I'm looking at the discovery of the 215 dead children's graves in the residential school. The collect speaks of dry bones. We long for the breath of God to breathe into the souls of those families who let their children go, promised that they would be safe, cared for, educated, and returned. But it was a lie. Lies make for dry bones. The dry bones of broken trust, of being told she's fine when she is dead. The dry bones of trust broken, of being told he will be happy, warm, and well fed when he was humiliated, isolated, beaten, degraded, and finally allowed to die. Or he died trying to walk home alone. The dry bones of trust broken, being told they will be safe in the school, healthy and happy. Tuberculosis was the leading known cause, along with two other major causes of death being influenza and pneumonia. European diseases. These swept unchecked through crowded dormitories, and no one told half of the parents. We told the people of Canada's First Nations that we were advanced, wise, trustworthy, and doing this for the betterment of the children. But it was never true. We wanted all those resources that they weren't even using. Trees to log, minerals to mine and process, water for industry. Our insatiable appetites then and now have not changed. We got through the buffalo that had sustained First Nations people for centuries. We got through the buffalo in a matter of decades. We white people, we European settlers, have been a plague upon the land and all that live in it. The casual burial of children without their parents ever being informed, the arrogant disregard of their deaths, not being mourned in the tradition of their families and culture, the intentional undermining and devaluation of cultures that we have no interest in bothering to explore. It was as though our duty to Christianize and Westernize and make productive these lesser races, as we did in Africa, South America, in India and Australia and New Zealand, and we did it in a hurry to get there before our European competitors. The final report from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada had a section on missing children and unmarked burials, 273 pages in length. That's how much they found. It states, many, if not most, of several thousand children who died in residential schools are likely to be buried in unmarked and untended graves. Subjected to institutionalized neglect in life, they have been dishonored in death. Many Aboriginal people have unanswered questions about what happened to their children or relatives while they were attending residential school. Here are the dry bones, and our government has done little to act upon the recommendations of the Commission. There is no breath in these bones. Still, we do not really care. There are pipelines to be laid across unceded territory where the RCMP break up demonstrations being offered by the people of that land, even though they have no jurisdiction to threaten or bully or even be present. The hot wind of settler disregard still blows over the bones of those we hold as less important. We disregard our own laws for the fulfillment of our greed, blessed by our politicians. In the garden, Yahweh, which is a Hebrew word that means I am, and I was, and I will be. I am being. Yahweh, a name we translate as the Lord. The Lord was walking, and Adam and Eve were hiding from God. The story, in so few simple images, speaks of our belief that we know better, that the rules don't apply to us, and we can probably get away with it. Why are you hiding? God asks. We're naked and we're embarrassed and ashamed, and we didn't want you to see us. Who told you you were naked? She did. Adam gets in first. That woman you gave me, it was her fault and your fault, but not my fault. Eve, it wasn't my fault. It was that serpent's fault. I didn't do it. It was its fault. How little the pattern of greed changes. Lies, shifted responsibility and blame passed to someone else. How little it has changed. And the toxic seeping in of guilt must always be denied. Even the Truth and Reconciliation report and the calls to action excuse inaction. Hey, we did a report, didn't we? So we're done, aren't we? No, we have hardly begun. The gospel, in brief, lists the excuses, digressions, distractions, and angry venom used to shield us from actually being people of truth, recognizing truth in front of us, acknowledging our part in wrongness, in evil. The person who presents the truth, who causes us to feel guilt and shame, we turn on. But the teaching of the Bible is that the bearer of truth offers us a way out of the deceptions, the blaming of others, and the retelling of events so that we come out looking good. Here's a doorway to healing. We call it confession. It is the path to forgiveness and light. It is a costly way because for confession to be true, it must be true, and it must come with the intent to amend our ways. When Jesus talks of a house divided, he speaks of individuals and of communities. I become a house divided when I tell myself that I am pure and without sin, and I owe no one anything, that I have rights but no responsibilities, and that I am without the need to change, but rather everyone else is wrong. The story of my vanity and the truth I bury but still know divides me. Lies and truth within me together divide me, a house divided. Suicide has been described as what we do when the truth about us and the image we carry of ourselves in our imagination differ so profoundly that the pain of that division is so great that one of them has to go. It is not a pretty image. As Canadians, we become a house divided when we spend vast sums of our money on our meagre military or government buildings. We spend large sums on leadership salaries, and we focus on trade deals without noticing corruption or ethnic violence in countries from whom we expect a good profit. We become a house divided when we repeatedly put the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Committee on the back burner, or, more accurately, off the stove altogether. But we have our leaders stand up and speak about the importance of dealing justly with those whose land, livelihood, culture, and children we take away, but do not treat with honour or dignity or truth. Some of Jesus' disciples and some members of the church over centuries have struggled and often have succeeded in the following. Firstly, admitting that no fig leaf will cover over their complicity. Yes, God, I guess you see right into my heart and head. Secondly, risking the venom and anger that comes from those whose dry bones are dry for lack of truth and reconciliation in their own lives. Thirdly, acknowledging that our wealth and comfort rests on the injustices of European colonization and the thefts of old and of the present that stack the odds in our favour, but against Indigenous peoples, especially here in Canada. Admitting, number 4, admitting that those you judge may not be wholly guilty and are often trapped in systems of brokenness and pain themselves. And fifthly, without beating yourself down with shame and guilt, accepting Jesus' invitation to face in another direction, walk in a new path, a path of forgiveness over pride, of truth over comfortable lies, and dignity over profit or false honour, to walk humbly after God. We will not put everything right this week, this month, or this year, but there are things that little people like us can do. When you see an injustice, you can name it. When you hear a lie, you can challenge it. When you are accused or accuse yourself, pause to look deeply into the possibility that there is some truth in it. Allow yourself to be changed. And when you see someone sleeping on a sidewalk, wonder, who is this? And how that child of God so lost himself or herself and was convinced that they deserved less. Who are these people? Brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers to you, damaged and broken by others, trying to find the garden again. They may be Jesus' messenger, calling you home to the garden of truth. Mostly the reflections I have offered recently, they have been encouragements to you to see the faith not so much as belief, but more as living in the presence of a good and loving God. We all need to hear and follow these, but as well as walking towards the light, we need to know, see, and name the darkness, the evil, the callous greed in which we live and to which we sometimes close our eyes. We live in it simply by being part of a society for which we have little responsibility, a society that is well off. And every now and then we need to ask, who finances this lifestyle? I will not list the groups I could identify. Today it is enough to face squarely that these 215 children's bodies, buried without even being marked or recorded, are our collective responsibility. Ours, because our wealth and comfort, even the poorest of us, is built on the policy of theft, degradation, disregard, and cultural destruction that our government and our churches have followed since first contact. When we hear of this in Myanmar, we are shocked. With the discovery of these children dead in our care, we must be horrified. And we must complain and stand up and be counted and walk into the light of truth. It is better for a house divided to fall if it is a house built on lies and conceals dark truths. It is better to be a lone voice of truth than to be silent in the presence of evil. take some steps. Find out about the Truth and Reconciliation process. You can find it with the simplest search online. Find out what's happening in the diocese. You can do that. It's easy to find. Don't let this slip away. Don't let this be forgotten. Don't let the First Nations be once again brushed aside as mere inconvenience, at best an embarrassment. We need to be people of truth, Christ-like and honest. May God bless us in this ministry of truth-telling to which we are constantly called. Amen.